Hey, everyone. We are coming live tonight with such an important topic. I'm so excited to bring this conversation to the forefront because it's needed, right? We need to be talking about this more often than not. And in my opinion, it's a conversation that we don't have, we don't talk about it enough. So managing stress, like in the everyday, it's an everyday thing for an adult, but we forget sometimes that our kids are no stranger to feeling the effects of stress, overwhelm, and worry. And while this conversation that we're having tonight is focusing on teens and college students, um, because there just needs to be more awareness of tools that are available, this talk really applies to all kids and all parents that are looking to support their kids. So if your kiddo is expressed at any given time that they're stressed, they're anxious, they can't sleep, they have trouble focusing, they're experiencing stomach issues or headaches, or they just seem off, they're communicating with you, right? They might not come right out and say, "Hey, mom, I'm feeling depressed today," or "Mom, my anxiety is really high today." It might just manifest in these different ways: crying, isolation, not sleeping, maybe oversleeping, not eating right, and once again, that stomach, headache. Those are all signs. And this is really important to tune in, be aware of these signs, listen to your kids, talk to your kids often, because our kids are struggling more than ever, right? We're aware of this over the last couple years. It's for them just to kind of keep their head above water. And it's not okay when they're struggling, right? It's not okay because we have these solutions, and we really need to take a more proactive approach to caring for their mental health, right? Our kids deserve to feel and perform their best, and not white knuckle their way through school, through their day on the sports fields, going to class, studying, and just in their everyday life. And the good news is, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, is that there are natural solutions to lower anxiety, to improve sleep, increase focus, boost energy, boost mood, motivation, so they can feel happier, calmer, and more resilient as they go through life, as they go through their day and off to school and in their life. So we're going to be talking about all these tonight, and I have a special guest with us. And I'm going to introduce him shortly in just a minute. I also have my daughter here tonight. She's going to share her experience. She's a junior now in college. I can't believe it. It's going by way too fast. And she is going to be just sharing her experience just with the highs and lows of managing stress at school, just a typical college student, and how these solutions have really, really helped her. So if you're coming on live with us tonight, just drop live in the comments, say hello, where you're coming in from. If you're catching it on the replay, just type replay. We'll circle back, answer any questions. And as we're talking, as we're sharing, please put questions and comments in the chat. I would really love for this to be interactive because it's such an important topic. So let me quickly introduce Michael Quach with us tonight. He lives in Southern California. He has extensive experience in mental health. He's currently director of product development at the Mental Wellness Company, and he carries out research and design, scientific substantiation, content, and educational resources. He creates natural solutions for mental wellness that results in behavioral change. So it results, right? And that's his purpose. He has studied behavioral science and mental health recovery, and he's collaborated with many Southern California universities. So we have an expert in the house tonight, mental health agencies, county agencies, federal nonprofit organizations in the area of mental health. And he holds various certifications in nutritional psychology, He's a member of the Academic Society of Functional Foods and Bioactive Compounds and Functional Foods Institute. And when he's not doing all of this great work, he loves to play tennis. I've yet to take him on in a match when I'm out in California, but that's coming, Michael. And he likes to read and play with his Great Dane, Minnie. And if you go on his Facebook page, I suggest following Michael after this talk. You'll see many pictures of his Great Dane, Minnie, and he's like bigger than him. So he likes to have fun with his dog. So I'm just going to let you take over the stage, Michael. I hope I did justice in your introduction, but we're really excited to have you here today.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. And thank you again for the grand kind of introduction. But, I wanted to share with you guys a couple slides that I created for this particular conversation because it's so important to what's going on today. The future of mental wellness in the aspects of, teens, young adults, and kind of that college age life is really the definition of our future. And this is an article that I'm sharing with you that I saw last night, actually, as I put this slide deck together. And as you can see, it says teenage years undergoing drastic, dangerous change. And they're talking about the mental health components, the stress components, and all the things that our younger populations are experiencing right now. So this article is really the outlook of what's next for us. And the true definition of preservation of mental wellness across generations is the definition of sustainable efficacy in our strategy for helping this concept of mental wellness. With everything that's going on right now, the post-pandemic type stuff, the change in environments for our children being in school and then being schooled at home and then having to go back to school, stress is continuing to build up higher and higher and higher. So what's happening is when students, children, or young adults, or human beings in general are exposed to stress for a prolonged period of time, what happens is we start to see some of these more serious issues come about. And that's what we're really going to talk about today in respects to our college demographic and our growing children's demographic. This is a statistic that shows the common issues that many college students and young adults are dealing with today. So this is data that's been pulled from the Center of Collegiate Mental Health report. And what people don't understand is exactly what I mentioned earlier. If you neglect or do not take care of your mental wellness from the start, and you expose yourself to a prolonged duration of stress or fatigue or lack of sleep and all those types of things, what happens is it works like a revolving door, and it becomes adding up to your psychology, and your mental wellness starts to decline. So as you can see here, there's a lot of students that are reporting stress. And I want you guys just to focus on where I put the red arrows. The top 4 components that students and young adults are reporting in their life are stress, anxiousness, sleeping difficulties, and depressive-like symptoms or depression. So when we're looking at this kind of stuff, just keep in mind that this is what actual data is telling us. And we want to be cognizant of that because that's what's going to point us to what we can do about these things and what people are doing about them today. So this is an awesome snapshot from a whole different study that looks at, well, what are these demographics, or what are these young children doing, or what are these teenagers doing, or college kids doing to use as tools to care for their emotional well-being. A lot of them are listening to music. I know I did that in college. A lot of them have a great support system of friends. That's really hard these days when we don't go to campus to go to school. We're going to classes via Zoom. We're doing extended learning, but all those things hinder the necessary social interaction to help our children thrive in today's world. But I want to skip down to the middle of this where I put that red arrow. And that piece is proper nutrition. A lot of people, when they think about mental health and mental wellness, nutrition is one of the last things that they're thinking about. And take it from me, I've worked in the ER where we saw mental health clients and patients of all types all day, and we never once looked at, well, what are they eating? What type of diet are they having? And it wasn't until about 5 years ago where our units actually started incorporating different types of diets for different types of behaviors that we saw. So if there's anything on this slide that you really kind of take away the concept that nutrition and targeted nutrition can really be a powerful tool in one's mental wellness. So this study was created by the JED Foundation. So they looked at about 200 different students, and this is the responses that they had. So these are tools, and we use this analogy sometimes where we think of all the things that we can do to manage our mental wellness as a shed, and there are different tools in that shed, kind of like you have different tools in your shed for gardening. You have a tool to help with digging. You have a tool to help with watering. And our mental wellness works in the same way. And what we're doing here is we're adding different innovative solutions to that shed of tools to keep your mental health and to keep your mental wellness at an optimized level. And feel free to stop me if you have any questions, Colleen, and I'm more than happy to elaborate on any of these components.
No, absolutely. I totally agree that sometimes the lifestyle habits aren't really looked at it as helping with the mental health piece, especially nutrition, and yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a good point too. This is a very multifaceted survey. We're seeing things that involve exercise. We're seeing things that involve different activity components in addition to diet, in addition to support systems. And remember that, because that's a really important piece. When we're thinking about our mental wellness, it's not a single faceted piece where we can say, I can take my supplements and not do anything else and then feel better. That's not how it works. We always have to approach it in a comprehensive, multifaceted way. And I want to share with you kind of how we do that from our perspective here.
Yeah, and one other point, Michael, is to really, if you look at the typical college student kind of nutrition, sometimes it kind of leans towards the unhealthy. They're staying up late, they're studying, and they're eating pizza. Chloe's like, no, not me. But I think some are more mindful than others, but it influences their mental health.
100%. And it's a fact. When I was in college, I know for a fact that I was not eating the right nutrients. I had Hot Pockets 6 days out of the week. I had ramen noodles every other day. And all those things sound like dietary components, but they all impact all the things that many people were complaining about. It impacts your sleep. It impacts your level of focus, your ability to concentrate. And we're going to get into that in this next slide here, where we're looking at some of the solutions that we might have. And I wanted to start on this product pack called the Happy Juice Pack, because this is a really comprehensive solution that really touches on many of the components that you saw many of the college students reporting. And not only are we saying that these ingredients make a difference with some of those complaints, but we have the scientific studies that actually show people who had reported those types of symptoms were able to see improvement over the course of time. So, every single one of our solutions are a piece of innovative science, and they're nutritional formulas that target a benefit or a behavior in some form or fashion. a lot of times when we're thinking about benefits and, what does this do for us, we don't really look at it from a behavioral perspective. And, being that that's my expertise, we know that in science, if there's no behavioral change, there is no efficacy. We need to be able to see and observe that, hey, Chloe is a lot more energetic today and she's able to focus more than, and that will be the proof that, some of these ingredients work. So this is the Happy Juice pack, and I want to kind of go left to right in what's in it just real quickly. And it's a combination of 3 products. Our first one being energy over on the left-hand side over here. And what energy does is it really delivers a rapid improvement in brain and physical performance. And you probably are wondering, well, what does that mean? How does that actually help my kids? Or how does that help, my cousins that are in college? All these types of nutrients modulate something called neurochemicals, your serotonin, your GABA, your dopamine. And these nutrients actually have the science that show when you consume them, they modulate those neurochemicals better and in a more balanced fashion so that we can feel better. We can, have more motivation. Our mood will be more energetic, and we'll be able to perform, at the expectations for our classes, our exams, all that type of stuff. So, when we're looking at that from a bird's eye view, what might people look like, or, what might people say about how they feel once they use this? And people have told us thousands of times that they're happier, they're less stressed, they're sleeping better. They have better mood, and they're able to concentrate better. And those are all things that are helping our population of students in the college realm, and even students that are not in college yet. We have a ton of parents that share this with their high school kids, and they are able to show up a different student, a better student, and a higher performing student. So that's just one product pack that we have here, and we also have a couple variants in terms of flavors. If you guys haven't been with us for too long or haven't heard yet, we actually launched a flavor variant of the Happy Juice pack where the edge product in it is actually grape. And this is a particular package that you can get the same benefits that we just talked about on the prior slide, but it has a different flavor profile for those who aren't into watermelon or aren't into that type of look and feel. But one thing I did want to mention, though, is that each of these products carry individual science that helps balance those neurochemicals that I talked about. So if you don't get them as a pack, it's not to say that, hey, I'm not going to be happy or I'm not going to get the benefits that I need. Each of them do work standalone, but together they have a synergistic effect where they are able to work together. The nutrients are able to work together to be less stressed, get better sleep, have better mood, and all that type of stuff. So you're probably thinking, well, what is kind of the primary philosophy behind all of these products? They're all natural, they're clean, they're derived from natural sources all over the world. And we really study them before we actually use them so that we can say they actually have these benefits. And here's the data to support it. Because on the science side of the world, like I mentioned earlier, if you don't have that behavioral change, it really, you can say that it does something, but it doesn't have the efficacy to show that it works. And for those reasons, I wouldn't be interested. But because ours does have the science, it has all the data, that's why we've been able to make a difference in thousands and thousands and thousands of people's lives. Almost close to 100,000, different customers and families at this point. Just a fun fact. So
yeah, and I can vouch for, I love the science. I love understanding how these neurotransmitters get created and signaling up to the brain. I love all that. And I can get really into it. But when I see changes in my kids, when I see changes in myself, that's where the science becomes meaningful, right? Meaningful. And, like you said, have a behavioral change that is, life changing, right? In some cases.
Right. Yeah, and those are some of the best results that we get,
Mhm.
when teachers, call us and say, Michael, Sean, you know, our students are, a completely different type of student now. Or, parents call us and, they'll say, gosh, my son has been able to concentrate just so much better. And that's a really rewarding type of feel when you're in the profession of mental health and mental wellness. So
Yeah.
yeah, to continue on, we've got a couple other solutions that are very, very popular and effective with children, teens, adults, and college students. A lot of times when people see like kids' mood, they go, "Oh, I'm not a kid, so I don't I shouldn't take this." But what I want you guys to know is that the saffron ingredient that is the main driver in this product is actually studied in adults as well. So there's a ton of adults that actually use this product with really high levels of success. So if you have never seen this before,
I'm one of them.
yeah, exactly. And they're really cool because these are almost like a pixie stick, and you can, pack them in your kid's lunch pail. If you guys are going to Disneyland, you guys can take a few sticks. But what it does though,
Or a college backpack.
or college backpack, your lunch pail, your pocket, whatever it may be. But what it really does here is pretty neat. This Afron actually was clinically studied alongside something called methylphenidate, which is Ritalin for people who have ADHD, trouble focusing, attention pieces, and stuff like that. And they saw that this Afron was just as effective as methylphenidate. But it's an all natural form. And, you can see all of our clinical data here. I'm not going to go way into that kind of stuff, but if you ever need it, you're always more than welcome to reach out to Colleen, myself, and I can get you this information so that you can share it with your family and friends, because this is where the pudding is. The kids' mood product we were able to see 10 out of 10 children have better ability to focus. They were able to be cognitively connected to what they were doing in classes, and they were able to sleep better. So when you're able to modulate serotonin, for example, you're not just modulating mood. A lot of people associate serotonin with feeling happy, which is that's absolutely correct. But serotonin is also the first step in the or the biochemical process of conversion to melatonin, which is required for people to sleep. So what happens is when you use something like Kids Mood Plus, or you use something like our natural solutions to help modulate these neurochemicals, you actually are as a secondary result, actually improving your sleep as well. And that's why a lot of people come back and they say, hey, I've been able to sleep better.
Yeah.
I've been able to feel better. I feel more rejuvenated. And sleep is associated with repair of the body. So, deep sleep is repairing the brain. REM sleep is repairing the body. And we'll get into that as we talk about sleep a little bit here. But a couple other studies about, the saffron and how important that is. So, feel free to take this if you're an adult or you have older kids, younger kids. It's a fun product that works well.
Yeah. I take one every single afternoon, Michael. It's just to keep me, engaged, keep me focused.
Yeah.
And it's just a great tool. Whether you're stressed or not, it's just a great add-on tool.
Absolutely. And this next one is really a neat piece too, because we have two different mood solutions for two different demographics. Our kids' mood was clinically studied in children, which is why we can call it kids' mood. We aren't the type of company that creates solutions and tests on animals and then we say, oh my gosh, well, that's completely applicable to donkeys and then goldfishes and then humans. That's bad science in my opinion. But we have different formulations for different demographics, and Mood Plus contains different ingredients that are designed for adults. And it contains four main ingredients, and I'll go ahead and share them with you guys, but I won't go too much into them. There's an ingredient called Venetron, Zembrin, Sensoril, and Relora. And together, these are all neuromodulators, okay? So when we're thinking about how we feel, every feeling there's a biochemical process within our body with every feeling that we have. So, if we're feeling sad, for example, we might have a decrease in serotonin, or we might have a low level of dopamine, et cetera, et cetera. But these four ingredients actually help modulate those neurochemicals, so people can feel like less anxious. People can be more resilient in the face of stress. People can be calm, but also aware at the same time. And that's that combination there, that relaxed awareness, is truly the definition of high mental acuity. And that's what we're really shooting for here, because we're the mental wellness company. We want to optimize everybody's mental wellness in whatever fashion that we can. And this is a really innovative mood product that I haven't seen on the market yet.
Mhm.
And it's comprehensive, it's robust, and it's unique at the same time. And more importantly, it's very effective fast. So you can take
Yes.
two of these. And Colleen, you could probably share with us that you probably feel a difference within the first 15 to 30 minutes. It'll bring you from up here
Yep.
to a good manageable state, so that you can keep pushing through whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and that's why I love it, for myself, and in high peaks of stress, and we all have them, you can take multiple doses, right? It's nutrition.
Yeah.
And this, you'll hear from Chloe shortly, this is one of the tools that we added when her stress levels went up this past year. As you get up in grades in college, your stress levels are going to go up, and we have to manage that. We have to say, okay, these are the tools we need now, right? And it's an evolution, like it's a evolving process that we have to evaluate where our kids are, what they need, and adjust. And this is the beauty, Michael, of these solutions. I can't say it enough. It's the beauty that they have these multifaceted solutions that we can apply to have meaningful results.
Right. Yeah. And I think all these meaningful results roll up into relevance today. All the statistics that I pulled together in the very beginning of this were statistics that were pulled right off of Google yesterday, without even having to dig far. So think about how important it is as we are sitting here talking about it. Our
Yeah.
kids, our families, our cousins, our friends are going through this exact same experience in life, and in fact we all did at some point, but now we have better tools to help push us through some of those situations. But lastly here, we've got our Sleep Plus, which is one of the
Oh, I think we lost your slides. Do we lose Michael? Well, while Michael is coming back with his slides, let me introduce my daughter, Chloe, and we can circle back with the sleep product. But Chloe is a junior at her university studying history. She plans to go on through a 5-year program to be a teacher educator. So, Chloe, let's just share briefly when you started the protocol your freshman year, and how they're helping you now that you're a junior, um, and navigating even like through a pandemic, couple years, in hybrid situation. But let's just start off, you started freshman year, and I'll let you just take the stage a little bit.
Yeah, so I started the products freshman year. I originally was just on the kids' biotics, mentobiotics,
Yep.
and maybe the kids' mood, and that's pretty much it. Very bare minimum. Didn't really see like too much of a difference, just because it was also freshman year, so I didn't really need to be super focused. It was pretty much gen eds, really easy classes. And then I think sophomore year, pandemic, that's when it was a bit harder. Needed to stay focused more with being online, not being in a school environment. And so I think I graduated onto the adult mentobiotics, and then
Sorry about that, Peter. It looked like it dropped for a sec, but
yeah, I'm gonna have Chloe continue, but we're gonna come back to sleep because it's one of the products that really has helped her as well. So we'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I was saying, just sophomore year, I moved up to using the adult mentobiotics, and also accompanied with sync and focus and energy, especially. And now the new product Edge just came out like a while ago, but I incorporated that as well, and started doing the Happy Juice before it was a pack. Yeah. And
that's right.
Yeah, I think just as college got harder, I kind of got into more of the products and more of the lines.
Right. And how do you kind of put it in your words, how you really felt kind of more resilience from the products, and especially two incidences that I can kind of remember you sharing with me. When you were going to a class, it was finally kind of in person, and you had to give a speech, and you said you kind of took a kid's mood before the speech, and kind of what your experience was.
Yeah, so it was for an American Studies class, and it was a fun project that our teacher had us do, and we were assigned a founding father, and I was Bedford something junior, I don't know, but one of the old guys, and I had to create a speech and perform it kind of on like a podium. And it was, since it was online, it was not in a classroom, it was in a large theater so that they could accommodate for social distancing. So that was even more scary, just like literally on stage. So beforehand I think I took 3, like just like down the hatch. And so the nerves cooled, and instead of being nervous, it was more excited energy. And so I got up on stage and I just kind of killed it, honestly. And
that's awesome.
I felt like when I was saying the words, like my voice wasn't shaky and I wasn't like sweaty palms. I was just kind of doing my thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
That's one instance.
Yeah, that's the anxiety, right? Sweaty palms, anxiety, and your anxiety level just went down, so you can enjoy the moment. And that's what we want for our kids. We want them to enjoy these moments of growth, of challenge. We don't want them to struggle and white knuckle through it and be scared out of their minds, and nervous and anxious, right? And then the other incident that I wanted you to share with the group, and I know this is vulnerable, for you to share. The night that you had called me, it was like during like a finals period of your last semester. And, we were talking, having a normal conversation, and then kind of all of a sudden you kind of broke down, right?
Yeah. I remember that because, well, one of the reasons that I was like just so broken down was that was after a night of like very little sleep, because of the stress and stuff. So it like I wasn't sleeping well, and on top of the stress of finals, I just like felt like I was kind of surmounting in stress and just so much on my shoulders for like papers and tests, and I thought there's no way that I can get all this done. Yeah, that was the fall semester, junior year this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of like your rock bottom, right?
Yeah, I felt rock bottom.
Yeah. And, immediately, as a mom hearing this on the phone, you panic as a parent. You're at first hopeless or helpless. You feel helpless. I'm miles away, like a lot of parents when they have college kids. And then I thought, wait a minute, we got this. We got this. I overnighted her mood, the adult mood, the sleep, and some extra kids mood. I overnighted it. I'm like, you're going to get this tomorrow. We hopped online. We did a yoga class together because breathing techniques help. So this is multifaceted, guys. This is nutrition. This is, and when kids get busy and have so much on their plate, guess what? The first thing that goes? Sleep, exercise, and nutrition. And this is what they need to stay stable. And part of this nutrition is these supplementations because we can't get everything from our diet, right? And probably within, like, what would you say, like a week, Chloe, I was checking in with you, but you started to feel better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that can be attributed to like the new products and also getting stuff done with the help of the products, like just knocking it out. And that made me feel like there was less to do. So I think the combination of both made me feel back on track.
Yeah, your productivity went up,
Mhm.
right? And then let's talk about sleep because you shared this with me the other night, and I thought it was so profound and so important. Talk about your sleep and how it's changed.
Okay. So I mean, you know how much I value sleep, even as like a toddler, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? I would put myself to bed
Oh yeah,
because I was like, I'm tired. I'm gonna head out. Good night. Like as a 4-year-old.
right.
So I mean, I already just like value my sleep so much because I know how valuable it is. You sleep better, you feel better, you do more things. So I think I told you last night, like I was like an old person and not a college student because I'm in bed by 10:30, out by 11.
Because
I mean, I have I have to get up early for classes, and I know how much it sucks when I'm tired.
right.
Yeah.
And you know how good you feel the next day when you get that good sleep. So Michael, I don't know if you want to take this opportunity and then we'll come back for Chloe to finish and just talk briefly about how the sleep product can help.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you guys really segued us well into that. And sleep, as you guys saw on the statistical data set, was one of the biggest issues that college-aged people reported was an issue to them. And the fact that Chloe has experienced that, I've experienced that, I'm sure Colleen has experienced that at some point, just is a testament as to how important sleep actually is for our body. And one of the natural solutions that we have here to help sleep, in addition to all the other products that help balance neurochemicals, Sleep Plus is targeted, and all of our products are targeted for different things. So this Sleep Plus is targeted for, you might guess, sleep, but it's not just your melatonin type solution where people will take it and it'll give you a synthetic dose of melatonin and you'll go to sleep better. So melatonin is obviously needed for your body to actually fall into sleep. And what Sleep Plus does is it actually delivers something called Mazenol, which is a corn grass extract. But what it does is it teaches your body to synthesize serotonin, which is, as I mentioned earlier, the first step in melatonin conversion. So when you take this, you're not really short-circuiting your body and saying, hey, here's a band-aid on the neurochemical imbalance that is affecting your sleeping habits. It's saying, well, here are the nutrients and the building blocks for your body to recreate its normal processes so that it can create and convert melatonin so that you can sleep naturally. And that's the way we approach sleep quality and sleep health, because sleep is not something that you get in a night and then you go, oh, I got 12 hours of sleep, so I don't need to worry about my sleep tomorrow. That's just not how it works. It's a sustained piece that we have to work on from a maintenance perspective. So Sleep Plus gives those nutrients to help modulate those serotonin chemicals, the conversion of serotonin to melatonin, so that people can actually see higher rates of REM sleep, deep sleep. And as I mentioned earlier, deep sleep is associated with your body being able to recover itself from a cellular perspective. And REM sleep is where your brain actually gets rejuvenation. So, we need both of those. Yeah. More sleep doesn't always mean better sleep. It's the quality of sleep that makes a difference in between the two.
Yeah. And when we're talking about college students, Michael, is, like I said, sleep sometimes is the first to go. They're pulling all-nighters. And if you think about it, if you're pulling an all-nighter to study for a test and you're going to go take that test the next day, think about your brain functioning, right?
Absolutely.
Our students would benefit so much more that, to get, the good night's sleep. And I'm sure, I think I read somewhere there were statistics that they staying up all night, they did not perform better the next day, and it did not improve their grades.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And it totally
it affects their immune health. So they're getting sick more often.
1,000%. And, that segues us into, our conversation that we had earlier. When you have a lack of sleep, you start to see other different things come up. You become more irritable. You become more stressed. You become more distracted. And those are all things that interfere with your ability to succeed in college and succeed in your classes. So it's almost counterproductive when we're pulling all-nighters, because, you might do okay that night, but then the next day you're just, you're going to be, tired, fatigued. You're going to have a lot of brain fog. You won't be able to think. You'll be slow to respond, you name it. But I wanted to bring us back to kind of where we started, right? Why does all this stuff matter? Because all the tools that we have and all the tools that college students are using are listed right here from a data perspective. And we were really able to hone in on the nutrition component and what we have from an all-natural supplementation perspective. And we were able to hear a testimony that was firsthand, that really was able to shed light on the efficacy of what we're doing here. And that philosophy of approaching it from a holistic, comprehensive, multifaceted perspective is exactly how we formulate products and how we formulate our programs and create our programs, and how we drive, people and support people in everything that we do here at Amare. So, you can't just supplement or take a medication or do a program standalone. You got to make sure you really look at it from a nutritional perspective, an exercise perspective, academic perspective, whatever stage in life, you're at. You got to really come in at it at every strategic perspective to really bring you to that next level of mental wellness. And that's everything that, we stand for. And, our students, our teens, our young adults are really the future of, our generations to come. So we have to be able to support these growing roots from the grass levels.
That's right. Thank you so much, Michael. This information is so beneficial. I have a few, I know you have to run, but I have a few other things that I'm going to wrap up with Chloe for her to share. And then I'm going to actually talk more about how people can get information. So thank you, thank you, thank you. The information was like so valuable. I'll reach back out to you if I have any questions from our audience when people start, even watching it on the replay.
Okay, awesome. And thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun, and it was a pleasure to meet you, Chloe. You did a fantastic job. So
Nice to meet you too.
Okay.
All right, thanks. All right, Chloe, a few more things that I wanted you to share. I know we're kind of going on 45 minutes, but I think this conversation is just so important. So you mentioned also to me, Chloe, and I've noticed just as you started using these protocols, is that it started impacting kind of your lifestyle habits, and you're a college student, right? Of how you're exercising every day. And like, if you kind of make your happy juice in the morning, and if you forget it on your way to the library, you're like, I need to go back for it. You're just being more conscious and more aware of how the lifestyle habits impact your mental health and these solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I try to exercise pretty much almost every day. And it's not always the same thing. It could be I'm on the club soccer team here at school, so that is definitely counts as exercise. We practice 2 times a week. And then the other days, I like to just pick a YouTube video and just do that for 30 to 40 minutes. And other days, I don't really, sometimes I'm too busy to exercise, but at least I get outside and I walk. There's at our library, there's a nice balcony with tables and stuff that if it's nice, I like to sit out there and get some fresh air while I work. And
Awesome.
yeah, I definitely appreciate like how exercise makes me feel and how being outside makes me feel. And I think that's thanks to a lot of the products to like, I don't know, center myself with those things. Yeah.
Awesome. And one other thing that we talked about is that your anxiety before the products, we weren't really aware of it, right? When you were in high school, when you were playing sports in high school. And now that you have the awareness of how your anxiety has lowered, you think back on those times where you were walking on the soccer field in high school or the basketball court and how the anxiety was impacting you, right?
Yeah. I think now that I know, or now that I've talked to other people with anxiety, I've learned more about it, and being on the products, like I've learned, oh, I have anxiety. Like, oh, like I do struggle with anxiety sometimes, and especially I think in high school academics weren't that hard for me, but with sports and stuff, that's where most of my anxiety rested. And I would get like super duper anxious, and it would affect my performance, like in soccer, in basketball, in track. Like I would get the ball or whatever and just be like, I'm freaking out. But that's not good when you're playing a sport. You just want to be in the moment. So I think if I had these products in high school, it would definitely help me then. Maybe.
I love what you just said. You want to be in the moment, and that's called like
Yeah.
in the zone, in the flow. You want
Yeah.
to, do your best by just being in that relaxed moment, right?
Yeah. So I definitely had anxiety in high school and still do, but the products help me manage it.
Yeah. And as a parent, I wasn't aware of it, right?
Yeah, I just
So
thought it was normal.
right.
Yeah.
So all you parents out there listening, be proactive about this. Even if your kids seem okay, the level of stress, the level of anxiety that we're all exposed to, we need to be proactive and build the resilience so it doesn't affect how we perform and how we feel. And last question for you, Chloe, is Now that you have been on the protocols, the solutions, how do you foresee them carrying you through the rest of your college years and into your post-grad work as a teacher and an educator?
Yeah, I think just the continued use of them will allow me to like not just pass by, like, but like go beyond and you know, continue striving in my academics and eventually graduate, go on to my master's, do the same thing there. And then just teaching, definitely gonna make use of the Energy Plus, just to keep me awake at the early mornings, and even the midday when I start to tank.
So a little message out there for all you teachers out there, right?
Huh? What?
A little message for all the teachers out there listening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thanks, Chloe, for sharing. I really appreciate you just kind of coming on and being vulnerable and sharing your story, sharing how these products have really kind of changed how you show up at college and in your life. It's not easy being a 21-year-old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But that you are having fun and you are just, thriving. And that's what we want for all our kids, guys. So parents, I'm going to just wrap up the call tonight by saying there's solutions, there's tools to equip your kids. And they don't have to have a diagnosis to be struggling, right? We're not talking about diagnosis here. We're talking about being proactive with our kids' mental health. And, school and college is demanding, and we want to give our kids the right tools to wake up these neurotransmitters, as Michael was talking about, to calm the nerves, so our kids can show up as their best selves. And these holistic solutions fill the gap that they're not getting they can't get from their diet alone, to help lower the stress, create more balance, and allow them to feel good, right? Feel their best. So thanks for listening. If you'd like to evaluate these tools that we're talking about, it's an easy solution, right, Chloe? Like you can do it every day, right? In your dorm,
Yeah.
right? You
All you
mix
need is water in a bottle.
There you go. It's easy to equip your kids, send them off with these solutions. And so drop tools in the comments and tag the person who invited you here. If you want to evaluate these tools, we have some specials going on through the end of the month on the Happy Juice. Guys, I can't encourage you enough as parents to equip your kids with these tools. It's life-changing. Right, Chloe?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Any questions, drop them in the comments, and I'll circle back. Have a great night.